Like many things in life, football is also not safe from conspiracy theorists. Sometimes these guys would go out of their way to create an absurd theory that would lay siege on the very foundations of the game. But out of a few of those theories, some do make sense and have a little bit of truth in them. So we decided, why not talk about some of the biggest conspiracy theories in the game. Before we begin, make sure to let us know if we missed out on any particular controversy. Steven Gerrard's missed penalty. While Steven Gerrard would be considered one of the greatest Liverpool players to have never won the Premier League, the former midfielder's name will always remain etched in the club's rich history. Gerrard won a decent amount of trophies with the Reds, but a lot of these eras saw him play under managers who didn't really know what to do with the squad they had. For instance, the Roy Hodgson era was a completely forgettable one. The former Fulham boss was unable to take Liverpool back to the hallowed perch, and according to rumours, Gerrard played a huge role in getting the Englishman sacked. Conspiracy theorists say that the penalty missed by their midfielder in a game against Blackburn was on purpose, and Gerrard knew that a defeat to the Rovers would end Hodgson's time at the Anfield dugout. Of course, nobody knows if this is actually what happened, but hey, at least Hodgson knows that one person who will get coals from him at Christmas. Ed Woodward playing the long ball. Earlier this year, Manchester United executive Ed Woodward was facing a lot of flack for not being able to sign top quality players. Tensions reached their peak during the January transfer window after reports came out that Woodward was actually lowballing Sporting Lisbon over the transfer of Bruno Fernandes. In the midst of all this, a group of fans showed up and started throwing fireworks at his house. Now the thing is that before these events, Woodward had hired Neil Ashton, an employee of The Sun, to help with PR, and on the day of the attacks, The Sun's camera crew was the first to report the fracas. Was it a ploy to get supporters on his side? We'll never know for sure, but at least Manchester United did something very decisive and blamed The Sun for having knowledge of the attack prior to it happening. A few days later though, Bruno Fernandes was signed and all was forgotten. My question is this: if you're a Man U fan, did you dislike Ed Woodward a little less after the Bruno Fernandes transfer? Let us know in the comments section. Amazon signed Jose Mourinho. Have you seen the All or Nothing trailer on Amazon Prime? If you haven't, it's a pretty great documentary of how life is at Tottenham. Jose Mourinho isn't really having a great time now that he's back in football management. The Portuguese tactician has been unable to revive Spurs, and according to conspiracy theorists, Daniel Levy never wanted to sign him in the first place. According to the conspiracy theory, Amazon saw Mourinho as the perfect manager for them to create a Spurs documentary around. Indeed, why would any producer not want to have Mourinho around, given the fact that there's always a real-life drama happening wherever he goes? According to these conspiracies, Levy agreed to the club hiring Mourinho because Amazon would be able to weave a quality script based around the club's misfortunes this season. Well, not really sure if that's the case. Spurs losing to Colchester in the Carabao Cup was definitely not Amazon's fault, and neither was the 7-2 hammering at the hands of Bayern Munich. Barcelona formation and a map. Okay, this one really takes the cake. Apparently Pep Guardiola is the real-life Lord of War. According to a Syrian TV station, Barcelona's formation bears an uncanny resemblance to a smuggling route used by Syrian rebels. This issue was pointed out during an El Clasico meeting where the presenter pointed out La Blaugrana's formation being exactly like the arms smuggling routes to Syrian rebels. Well, this is as far-fetched as they come. South Korea's dream run at the 2002 World Cup. So in the 2002 World Cup, joint hosts South Korea went as far as the semi-finals of the competition. On their way to the last four, they beat Italy and then Spain before losing out to eventual runners-up Germany. However, a lot of eyebrows were raised at the officiating during those games. The game against Italy saw the referee make a lot of controversial decisions, and the Azzurri players thought that the red card given to Francesco Totti made no sense. In a similar vein, Portugal were also left seething at the poor officiating. These events led many to believe that the World Cup was rigged in South Korea's favour and that they could have never reached as far in the competition as they did had they not been the hosts. Of course, none of us would be talking about this if striker Christian Vieri hadn't sliced a vital shot over the bar in that exact same game. But hey, we'll just leave that theory for you to comment on. The 1970 World Cup theory. In 1970, England were all set to defend their status as the champions of the world in Mexico. However, before the tournament began, star player Bobby Moore ran into some problems in Colombia. The England legend was alleged to have stolen jewellery from a shop in Bogota. After being questioned by the police, Moore was put under house arrest for a few days. The defender was eventually released but wasn't really himself once the tournament began. It's said that the whole event was orchestrated to derail England's defence of their crown. Whether it's true or not, England were unable to defend their crown after losing to Germany in the quarter-final. The pre-1966 World Cup antics. The '66 World Cup was the first and so far only time that England became champions. Those performances were never repeated and England still search for another title. However, it's a little-known theory that the likes of Germany and England conspired to create difficulties for Argentina and Uruguay before the tournament even began. Representatives of the South American sides were invited for a referee selection event in London. However, by the time they arrived, Germany and England had already finalised match officials. A German referee was picked for the Argentina-England encounter, and an English one was selected for the Germany-Uruguay encounter. That made things easier for both European sides, as some controversial refereeing did play a big role in getting both South American sides eliminated. Pelé wasn't happy with the tournament either and had this to say: "When I first came back to Brazil after the World Cup Games of 1966, my heart wasn't in playing football," Pelé later said. "The Games had been a revelation to me in their unsportsmanlike conduct and weak refereeing. England won the Games that year, but in my opinion, she did not have the best team on the field." On another occasion, he said that in 1966, football stopped being an art, stopped drawing the crowds by its skills. Instead, it became an actual war. Indeed, the 1966 World Cup was a poorly managed affair. From players to fans to journalists, the English failed to provide an atmosphere that matches the significance of this event. Swedish journalist Torstein Ehrenmark's statement does give a lot of credence to this theory. "This is the first report ever written by a journalist in a mouse hole. I am wedged firmly between two planks and two cigar-smoking Brazilians in yellow sombreros." Bebe to Manchester United. Remember how Sir Alex Ferguson signed Bebe for €7 million without ever scouting him personally? The great Scot didn't make a lot of mistakes in his career, but this has to be the biggest. However, according to conspiracy theorists, this might not have been a mistake but a way of paying back a particular agent for a big favour. Allegedly, Nani was suspected of having performance-enhancing drugs in his system. Jorge Mendes found out that there was going to be a drug test. Carlos Queiroz, the then Portugal manager, left Nani out of the squad, citing an unspecified injury. That saved Nani's career, and Sir Alex decided to sign Bebe as payback for an inflated price. You know a signing is bad when people are making all sorts of theories about it. The Lasagnagate affair. Remember the final day of the 2005-2006 season of the Barclays Premier League? Well, the day was pretty much insignificant for most of the sides apart from Spurs and Arsenal. Tottenham faced West Ham while Arsenal had a meeting with Wigan. The main theme? The chance to finish fourth in the league and qualify for a Champions League qualification berth. The only thing Tottenham needed to do was exactly what Arsenal would do in the game against Wigan. Arsenal beat Wigan while Spurs ended up losing to the Hammers. However, preparations for the game against West Ham took a turn for the worse when the majority of the Tottenham squad woke up with food poisoning from a dodgy lasagna they had. Funny thing is, the Arsenal squad was staying at a nearby hotel, and that's why accusations started coming from every direction that someone had planted a bug in the lasagna. Jermaine Defoe admitted that he thought someone from West Ham had done that, while Andy Reid of West Ham said that if players getting sick before a crucial game was a coincidence, it was one hell of a coincidence. To this day, Tottenham fans maintain that the chef of the hotel was a Gunner supporter. Nike made Brazil lose the World Cup final. In France 1998, Brazil were one of the strongest teams in the world. The Seleção boasted the greatest striker the world has ever seen in Ronaldo Nazário. The final against France was supposed to be Brazil's. However, the Kings of Samba lost 3-0 to Les Bleus, and throughout the game, Ronaldo was not himself. The Inter Milan striker was not fluid, couldn't hold the ball for long, and didn't showcase the skills that made him a lethal presence in the opponent's half. According to reports, Ronaldo had a seizure the night before the final and wasn't named in the squad initially. However, he would end up starting the game, and it's been said that Nike forced Ronaldo to play the game due to his sponsorship commitments. The final was not just a game between two football giants, it was also a marketing battle between two apparel giants in Nike and Adidas. Ronaldo was Nike's most important person for the night, and him not representing the brand against France, who was sponsored by Adidas, could have had serious repercussions. In the end though, Ronaldo couldn't inspire his team like he usually did, but he would get a shot at redemption 4 years later after he guided Brazil to World Cup glory at the 2002 tournament.